In our last episode, we blackmailed a customs officer, played rodeo with an auto doc, cut off a big toe, and then ate it. Fun. Now, we have to explore Vault City to see if we can find a way into the vault from which this city gets its name. We see that Vault City is a beautiful place with pristine architecture and even manicured gardens. The gardens are kept up by a bunch of gardeners, but as we get close, they say, "I am not permitted to speak with outsiders." And that's right. Vault City employs, quote, servants, unquote. Servants that they get either by enslaving them for failing to pay their protection money or by buying them from the slavers at the den. Knowledge of this makes Vault City glisten just a bit less. Despite that, many of these slaves seem to be content with their life. One says, "I was first captured in the den. Fortunately, I ended up here." Another says, "I was lucky that Vault City had need of servants. I could have ended up in New Reno." There are many buildings here. We'll start by exploring the big one right by the gate. This is the Tap House. So it looks like Vault City has their own pub. This may be one reason why Cassidy dislikes the Vault City citizens so much. They likely all came here instead of patronizing his bar. As soon as we enter, we find a woman behind the counter. This is Lydia, and we can ask her for some information. We learn a bit more of what we learned in our last episode. When we ask her who is in charge of Vault City, she says, "First Citizen Lynette. She's in the council building up north if you need to talk to her." She tells us that the vault is the big hole in the mountain to the east of here. We can't miss it, though we also can't get inside unless we're a citizen. Uh-oh, I wonder if the false citizenship papers that we got from Skeeve will get us inside. When we ask her about the slavery that goes on here, she gets really defensive. Look, first thing I have to say is that you better not call it slavery around here, or you're going to get yourself in a whole mess of trouble. They're called servants, not slaves. Just a word of advice. And she doesn't want to talk with us about it anymore, but I think we learned everything we needed to know. She tells us that Vault City doesn't have much contact with the outside world. The only places she's aware of are stops along the Big Circle. This was the trading route that Ed told us about in our last video. Broken Hills, New Reno, and Redding. She is, however, familiar with the nearby town of Gecko. Like Ed, she tells us that Broken Hills is a mining town far to the south. It's from there they get shipments of uranium. New Reno is a town to the southwest with a seedy reputation. Some merchants, she says, especially the slavers, really love it there. Other merchants don't. City with a lot of glitter and a lot of trouble, I hear. And Redding is a mining town to the west, but they haven't seen many shipments from Redding recently, and it's getting some of the senior councilmen worried. Finally, she can tell us a bit about Gecko. It's a town of ghouls less than a day's travel to the northeast. Rumor has it that they prey on travelers who enter their territory. Best to stay away. That's about it for information and gossip. Now to get down to business. What do you got on tap, Lydia? And to our disappointment, she says, well, we only have synthetic beers and liquors on tap. Oh gosh, it's worse than 10 forward. These synthetic alcohols are called vodka H, tequila derivatives W and W2, O and water, and Brahmin milk. When we ask her, do you have any real alcohol? She says, why? You looking for something with some more kick than these synthetic drinks? When we tell her that drinking a synthetic alcohol doesn't really compare to the real thing, she says, that's for sure. I used to know this merchant who had a bottle of Mad Dog 3030. Bitter stuff. Couldn't feel my tongue afterwards, but it was refreshingly different. Refreshingly, I bet. When we ask her what happened to this merchant's stash of Mad Dog 3030, she says it got drunk, or so I heard. There were a few other friends here in Vault City who helped this merchant friend drink the stash. They were willing to pay a good price to have the real stuff for a change. But here we find an opportunity. She is, after all, a businesswoman. We say, I bet they did. Hey, you know, I probably could get some more of the real stuff easy. I've been traveling the wastes a lot, and getting a hold of alcohol is no big deal. She says, is that so? Well, if you happen to be looking to relieve yourself of some real alcohol, then I could make it worth your while, if you could keep quiet about our deal, and get the contraband past the gate. When we ask her how much this deal would be worth to her, she says, say, a case of 10 bottles of premium alcohol and 10 bottles of beer. None of that radioactive stuff I hear comes out of Gecko, just good old booze, all right? Getting the booze is the easy part. We've likely collected enough already by exploring the wasteland so far, and we can always buy more from merchants outside of Vault City. And frankly, getting it into Vault City is pretty easy too. Once we have all 20 pieces of booze, if we try to enter the city with the booze in our inventory, we fail the inventory check. Sorry, says the guard, can't let you in with those items in your possession. Chems and alcohol are not permitted in Vault City. Ditch them and then come back, all right? Well, at least he didn't take them. There are a couple of ways to get around this. You could take them out of your inventory, place them on the ground, on a hex just by the gate, then use a day pass to get the gate open, walk to the other side of the gate, then while it's open, reach one hex across to pick them up. Sure, fine. The easiest way is to just put them on the inventory of one of our companions. For some reason, they check us, but not any of our companions. When we try again, we get the all clear. Then on the other side of the gate, we can just take our booze back from our companions. When we have all 20 pieces, we can go back to the tap house and check in with Lydia. Though I should note here that if our intelligence is too low, we can't complete this quest. And the reason is because Lydia wants nothing to do with us. When she says, "Can I help you?" our only low intelligence response is to say, you. A sound others make when see me. And she says that's perhaps the most fascinating thing I've ever heard. Hold on a second, I want the guards to hear it too. And we can say two. Too sexy for my clothes. Yeah, and we appear outside Vault City. So, making sure that we have a high intelligence character, we can go back to Lydia and we find an option to say, "I have that shipment of alcohol that you wanted." And she says, "Excellent, here's something for you." And she gives us the $300 she promised. That amounts double the price the cases are worth. And this transaction never happened, all right? And with that, we conclude our business with Lydia at the tap house. Exploring the rest of the tap house, we find servants hard at work in one of the storerooms. The citizens told me that if I work hard enough, one day I could become a citizen. And passing through one of the dining rooms, we can enter Lydia's private bedroom. On one of her shelves, we find a stack of $40, some foodstuffs, and a knife. Heading out of the tap house, we can move next to one of the buildings on the western side of town. This appears to be a private residence for some of the citizens. We see 4 bedrooms and a communal kitchen. The citizens all have wonderful citizen things to say. Please wipe your feet before entering my house. I cannot speak to you. I have work to do. You're an outsider. How quaint. But there's no loot in any of the containers here. So moving east, we see a group of 3 huts in the middle of town. The 2 huts on the left side are labeled amenities. We'll start by exploring amenity hut A, and inside we find a woman. "I'm sorry," she says. "Can I help you with something?" When we ask what this place is, she says, "This is Sub-Amenities Office A. We handle tools and repair equipment for the city." "You sure this was the place you were looking for?" We can say, "Yeah, I'm sure it's the place. Can I see what you got in stock?" And she agrees. But she has a limited inventory. A knife, a hammer, some explosives, a tool, and a stack of about 430 caps. Might as well sell the junk we're holding, but make sure not to sell the wrench we picked up hidden in the rocks in our last episode. After we finish our transaction, she stops us before we leave. Say, "Just so you know," she says, "there's a general store in the courtyard outside. You might want to try shopping there. I hear his selection is almost as good as ours." Thanks, we say, as we leave, clearly not wanted. I guess money from outsiders just isn't as shiny as money from fellow citizens. Heading up to Amenities Hut B, we find another cheery fellow. "Yes, what is it?" he says. We ask him what the place is, and he says, "This is Sub-Amenities Office B. We handle the distribution of pharmaceutical supplies in Vault City." "Maybe you were looking for someplace else?" "No, buddy, this is exactly what I was looking for," we can say. "Can I see what you have in stock?" He begrudgingly shows us, and like the last amenities officer, he has a small inventory, some antidote, Rad-X stim packs, and Radaway, though we do find another stack of $430. And again, we can use this guy to get rid of all of our unwanted merchandise. But as we leave, the guy also stops us to give us some similar guidance. Next time, he says, you should try the store in the courtyard outside the city. They should carry everything you outsiders need. Don't they just make you want to stay forever? Heading to the shack just to the right of these 2 huts, we find the maintenance center. And inside, we stumble upon a family reunion. What do you, Dad? Says the woman. No, I'm not. I don't think so, says the chosen one. But she wasn't talking to us. She was talking to Vic. Dad, she says. Valerie? Honey, is that you? Vic says. Where the hell have you been? Still running around the wastes selling shiny junk to tribals? Ignore her, boss. She doesn't know what she is saying. Val, honey, you see, there were these slavers and... Cut the crap, Dad. Are you still calling everybody you meet boss? I always hated that about you. Valerie, honey, please, just let me explain. You see, yada yada yada, and that's how we got out of the den. What a load of Brahmin crap. It's the truth. Don't you start. I'm glad Mom isn't here to hear this. What? What happened to your mother? Brain fever. Caught it out in the wastes. Probably looking for you. Oh, I'm sorry, Val. I'm just kidding. Huh? She actually died of radiation poisoning. She drank some of the unfiltered water from the courtyard well. What? Wasn't your fault. She had too many rads running through her system for Dr. Troy to save her. She was glowing like a lamp. Oh, Don't worry. She was pretty batty before that anyway. It was only a matter of time. I'm still sorry I didn't get a chance to see her again. No, you aren't. You used to call her the Desert Viper, didn't you? Well, yes, but you shouldn't call your mother the... Why not? It was true. She could be an awful jerk when she wanted to be. You look like you've done well for yourself. Inherited your father's knack for repairing stuff, it seems. Dad, you can barely tie your shoelaces, much less repair anything with moving parts. Huh? The devil you say? Let's ask your boss. And finally, the chosen one can interject. Well, we can say he can fix radios and stuff if you give him all the parts, right? Well, yeah, we can say. Ha! I knew it. Sloppy. Well, Val, last I saw you could barely tell a lug nut from a wrench. Keep it up, Dad, and you'll need a wrench to get my boot out of your ass. Oh, yeah? Well, honey, you better watch it or... Shut up, both of you, cries the chosen one. This has gone on long enough. Now come on, Vic, let's get going. We'll talk later, Val, he says. Yeah, sure, Dad. Talking to her again. Well, if it isn't my dad's boss, she says. Did you want something? Or are you just gonna stand there gawking like a moron? We can say, whoa, easy. I was just stopping in to see what this place is. It's the maintenance shed for Vault City, she says. Or did you just happen to miss the huge sign on the side of the building? No, we can say, sorry, I thought this might be a shop of some sort. You've got the of some sort right anyway, she says. Look, did you need something repaired or did you just want to ask me a bunch of dumb questions? What do you repair here, we can say? And she says, synthetic alcohol dispensers, radios, firearms, laser turret parts, computer monitors, you name it, when I can get the tools to do my job. Right now, she says, I've got the metal lathe barely working, and my wrench has gone missing again, and my pliers' teeth are stripped. We can say, anything I could help with? And she says, I doubt it. What's the problem getting more tools, we can ask? And she says, the problem is I can't just go out and buy some new ones. I have to requisition them from Vault City. That means filing out 5 billion lists, submitting them in triplicate, then waiting. Sorry to we can start, but then she says, hell, I ordered a super snap-off toolkit months ago. But just like always, it won't show up until I don't need it anymore. It's a wonder things ever get done around here. Golly, if this is the daughter, I guess I'm glad we missed the Desert Viper. At this point, we can offer our help. We can say, would getting you a new wrench and a set of pliers help you out? And she says, yes. Why? And we can offer to bring some back to her. I won't hold my breath, she says, but if you want to, go ahead. It's your time, not mine. I might be able to scrape together a little to pay you for your trouble. If I find a wrench and a pair of pliers, we can say I'll bring them by. But before we head off, we can ask her about the vault. Can you tell me where it's at, we can say? And she says, it's that big hole in the mountain to the east, past those 2 heavily armed guards. Anything else you want to ask, or can I get back to work? Thankfully, we already have a wrench. Remember, we found a wrench buried in some rocks right next to Cassidy's bar in our last episode. And the pliers are fairly easy to find too. In fact, we just skipped over one while inspecting the inventory of the merchant in Amenities Hut A. Heading back there, we can purchase the pliers tool for $350, but we'll likely have one already from our time out in the wastes. With the tools in hand, we can head back to Valerie and brace ourselves. Hey, I have those tools you wanted, we can say. She says, you do, and we can say, yeah. Then she finally drums up a thank you. Thanks. I mean, they're not great, but they'll do. Where did you... Oh, never mind. It's not important. Here's a few bucks for your trouble. And finally, we find a wonderful rebuttal here. We can say, maybe you can use those tools to help fix that attitude of yours. And she says, yeah. Look, I have some work to do. Come back in a day or two, all right? I'll have time to chat then. See you tomorrow then, we can say, which I suppose is just a day, not an or two. So it looks like we need to come on back, but before we do, we can explore her shop. Opening the door in the middle of the shop, we gain access to a back room. And here we find a bunch of lockers. Vic's walking around outside, so he's not going to see us steal from his daughter. After closing the door, we can go through each locker one by one, but they're all locked. In the first one, we find spare parts. In the second one, we find dynamite. In the third one, we find spare parts and a radio. In the fourth one, we find some flares. In the fifth one, a crowbar. And in the sixth one, a sledgehammer. With our loot in hand, we can take advantage of the 2 amenities merchants nearby and sell it all for a tidy profit. If we come back to Valerie a day or two later, she says, you won't believe this. Not less than a day after you gave me those tools, that super toolkit I ordered arrives. But not just one, they sent me 5. What the hell is wrong with the ordering office? And we can ask her, can you part with one of those toolkits? And she says, why not? What am I going to do with 5? Take it. I swear that I'm going to beat the living tar out of that list office for this. Thanks, we can say, and then we can ask her some more questions. What's the deal with you and your father, we can ask? Nothing worth mentioning, she says. He came here 20 years ago on one of his caravan trips, knocked up my mom and left. Until he stopped by, I hadn't seen him in about 5 years. No loss. Sounds like you and him have some things to work out, we can say. No, we don't. We've said all we need to say a long time ago. Are you sure, we can ask? And she says, yes, I'm sure. Well, except for the fact that I think he should lose some weight. He's got quite a spare tire going, and he should stop wandering all around the wastes selling junk to tribals. That's pretty much it. Look, we can say, he was in a mess of trouble with slavers, and he's trying to make up for lost time now. But you're right, he could stand to lose some weight. Heh, she says, you've got a sarcastic edge. I like that. As for old Dad, well, I'll try to be a little more civil, for a while anyway. Make sure he stays out of trouble, all right? And we can say, I'll try. He seems to find trouble wherever we go. See ya, Valerie. For convincing Valerie to give her father a chance, we earn 250 experience. And with that, Valerie gives us a super toolkit. We can steal the 4 others she mentioned from her lockers. The super toolkit increases our repair skill by 40%. Pretty great, but since we have Vic with us, we'll just save it for now. It may come in handy later. Moving to the right of Valerie's maintenance center, we can explore the amenities office. On the other side of the door, we find a man named Randall. Hello there, stranger. Always a pleasure to see a new face. Name's Randall. I'm the chief amenities officer. Need something? Well, it depends, we can say. What is this place? This is the amenities office, he says. Got your typical stock, basic living necessities, some books, how-to manuals, some tools, stim packs, medical supplies, this and that. But do you have a GEC, we can ask? And he says, a GEC? That's a Garden of Eden creation kit. Kind of gray suitcase looking thing, right? I haven't heard anyone mention one of those in, well, since almost forever. Hate to break it to you, friend, but we don't have ours anymore. Used it up to make Vault City. Poof, all gone. So this is what happens if you use a GEC. It terraforms the place so that you can build a city. When we ask him if he knows where we can find one, he says, well, here's your problem. As I see it, the GEC's an old piece of tech, pre-war tech, in fact. You just can't find them anymore. They were only issued to vaults. Do you know where I could find any other vaults, we can say? And he says, well, if you had access to our Vault Central computer, you might be able to find some mention of some other vaults, but only citizens are allowed in the vault. And again, we find out that we've got to get inside this Vault City vault. When we ask him if we can see what he has in stock, he says, again, sorry to break it to you, but I'm only authorized to do transactions with citizens. No offense to you, but it's the rule, you know? You might try Happy Harry's out in the courtyard. We can try to bluff our way through this, but, I am a citizen. Don't you remember me? And he says, really? Can't say I recall you. You got any papers on you? Might clear up the matter. If we have the forged citizenship papers, we can hand them over. Yes, here you go, we can say. He says, great, well, let me just run them through the reader here, and we'll just make sure everything's on the up and up. Won't take but a moment. Oh no, he's got a reader? He's gonna have the papers checked by an automated system? At this point, we could lose our nerve and say, whoa, give me those papers back, or, actually, I don't have time to buy anything right now. Let me have the papers back and I'll be on my way. But if we look him straight in the eyes and without flinching say, all right, I'm sure everything's in order. And if we pass a luck check, he says, everything checks out. Here's your papers back. What can I do for you? And finally, we can explore his stock. And he's got a great inventory, about $500 to barter with, but he's got some great armor, some metal armor, Mark I and Mark II, a combat shotgun, a variety of handguns, some minor chems, and some books. 2 big books of science, a first aid book, and 1 Dean's Electronics. When done, we can open the door to his storage. Here we find a slave organizing items on a shelf. I was captured by slavers long ago, he says. I barely remember it. But inspecting each of these shelves, we don't find anything, just stuff, according to the Pip-Boy. Heading out and moving north up the street, we see a man standing in the middle of it, shouting at us. He was so loud that we could hear him all the way from inside Valerie's maintenance shack. Hello and welcome, traveler, he says. Have you heard the word today? And you are, we can ask, my name? I am Thomas More, preacher of the word and the truth. And what brings you to me today, friend? Do you seek the word? The word, we can ask? The word, my friend, he says. The word is selfishness. Mix in a slew of arrogance, and what do you have? Vault City, in all its self-righteous, slave-trading glory. But why do you live here if you hate it so much, we can ask? And he says, why, where better to preach than to those that need to hear it the most? And here we can play along. Let's see exactly how far down this rabbit hole we can go. Testify, brother. Speak the word. And he begins his sermon again. Amen, brother, we can say. It is time to hear the wailing of our kin outside these walls, and let them in. We have more than enough to feed and shelter our brothers. We need not be rich when so many are poor. At last, we can say, someone who speaks sense. Why must others suffer when aid lies within these walls? Friend, as I look upon you today, I see strength. I see faith. Do my eyes deceive me, or do they see a kindred soul that shares my cause? Yes, know that it is time for the city, built on sin and slavery, to open its gates to everyone. And at this, Thomas leans in. I have a briefcase with information vital to our cause. Will you deliver it to New Reno for me? I would do it, but the citizens here are watching me. Here we have to make a choice. Now that we've earned his confidence, we can try to blackmail him. So, we can say, you admit you have ties to New Reno, eh? That's gonna cost you, friend. And he says, what? How dare you blackmail me? You have my full attention. Then let's discuss payment, shall we? Here, he says, this briefcase has my account numbers in it. Just deliver it to John Bishop in New Reno, and he will give you access to all of my accounts. We can accept the payment and take the reward, or we can turn him in. Forget it, we can say, I'm turning you in anyway. Ignorant heathen, he says. You have ears, but you do not listen. You have eyes, but you are blind. Get out of my sight, filthy swine. We can walk away peacefully, or we can say, nobody talks to me like that, least of all some 2-bit wannabe soapbox preacher. I think it's time you learned a lesson, dead man. And with that he attacks, and he is unarmored, so we easily kill him. But the guards of Vault City turn hostile, so this is not a good idea. Alternatively, we find an option to back away, we want no part of this, or we can say, sure, give it to me. Here it is, says Thomas, deliver this to a man, John Bishop in New Reno. Tread carefully, my child, and carry the word with you. Please deliver the case to New Reno, friend. Time is of the essence. With that, we find a brand new shiny briefcase in our inventory. Moore's briefcase. Thomas More asked you to take this Brahmin hide briefcase to the Bishop family in New Reno. It is securely locked, and you can't seem to open it. It weighs 5 pounds. So, 5 toes? Okay. Now, since we haven't been to New Reno, I can't complete this quest in this episode. So we'll save this quest and discover the mysteries that lie within the briefcase for when I do my video on the city of New Reno. Now, we find a number of shacks at the northern part of town to explore. We'll start by heading all the way to the west, where we find a small Vault City Information Center, aka the library. Oh, hello. Was there something I could help you with? Says the librarian. What is this place, we can ask? And he says, this is the Information Center for Vault City. Is this the place you were looking for? Information Center, we say. Do you have any books or manuals? Unfortunately, he says, our books are currently being transcribed into electric format. The extras are being shipped to the amenities office down the street. You might try there. Where are these electronically formatted books stored, we can ask? And he says, the books are being entered into one of the library terminals on the 3rd level of the vault. I don't recall which one. It's not one of the ones in the central core, though. Interesting. Why is everything being transcribed, we can ask? Yes, well, everything is being transcribed because, this is a somewhat delicate matter, but I believe my post here in Vault City has become obsolete. Obsolete, we can ask? And he says they are discussing putting information terminals in every household. These new terminals would be all tied to the list server and the information archives. Once that is done, the information center and I will be unnecessary. It's all for the best, really. Are you sure, we can ask? Oh my, yes, he says. The first citizen is rarely wrong in such matters. Still, I will be sorry to leave this place. I hear they have a position waiting for me in the list office. We can empathize with the guy and say, oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that all of the books were transcribed. I'd much rather read a book than stare at a computer screen. And he says that's how I feel as well. I have nothing against electronic format, mind you, but there's a certain solidity in having a book in your hands and turning the pages one by one. You know, he begins, and yes, we can interject. They haven't shipped all of the books out to the amenities office yet. I know Randall won't miss them if I give them to someone who appreciates them. Someone like yourself. And we can accept the gift. I'd love them then. Thank you, we can say. And he says, I'll go fetch them. Here you go. I hope you enjoy reading them. They are some of my favorites. A little on the technical side, but still quite good. Before leaving, we can ask him about the GEC, and he tells us everything we've already heard, that we need to check the central computer down in the vault. When we ask him how to become a citizen, he says we have to pass the Vault City citizenship test. But then he tells us of another option. We might try speaking with First Citizen Lynette. She may make an exception for such a learned individual like ourselves. With that, he gives us a stack of books. We walk away with a copy of Dean's Electronics and one big book of science. Not a bad haul, and all we had to do was be polite. We see more slaves milling around the garden north of here, and then we can move south to explore this building in the middle. This is the Servant Allocation Center, the place we needed to go to free Joshua. We find a man standing by a table in the middle of the room. This is Barkus. Yes, what is it? He says. I'm behind in my assignments. When we ask him what the Servant Allocation Center is, he says citizens who need help with menial tasks come here to have a servant assigned to them for the day. That sounds a lot like slavery, we can say, and he says I'd watch that kind of talk if I were you. It is not slavery. We take care of these refugees, and they have a good life, better than they would have out in the wastes. Where do you get them, we can ask, and he says, our servants are usually refugees from raider attacks or contractual prisoners who wish to work off their sentences in a productive manner, at the cost of their freedom, we can note. And he says, you sound a lot like that idiot Moore. Just what Vault City needs. Look, whoever you are, I have work to do, so if you'll kindly remove yourself. Before we remove ourselves, we can ask him a few more questions. He tells us everything we've already heard about the vault and finding information about the GEC, but then we can ask him about Joshua. I'm looking for a particular servant. Joshua, I believe is his name. Is he here? And he says, Joshua? Yes, we do have a servant by that name. He was recently transferred from the correction center. Your interest in him is... So they've already put Joshua to work as a slave. We can try to negotiate for his release. This'll cost us between $250 to $1,000, depending on our barter skill. We can try to take him by force, which turns everyone in the city hostile. Or we can say, I suspect he has a contagious disease. You might want to release him before he infects the other servants. And he says, is that so? Are you aware that each servant is thoroughly checked before being administered to the Allocation Center? But then we can say, are you aware of Oxhorn Syndrome? It doesn't show up on most medical scans, and its symptoms can lie dormant for weeks. Symptoms, he says? What kind of symptoms? Oxhorn Syndrome, we can say. A lot of Outworlders have it. Its symptoms include, speaking when not being spoken to, and using coarse language. Yes, he says, I have noticed those symptoms in the servants as of late. Contagious, you say? Well, if this Joshua is a carrier, I shall release him at once. Give me a moment to make the arrangements. No problem, we can say. Joshua would be better off with the Outworlders anyway. It is done, he says. Joshua is no longer a servant of Vault City, and he has been moved into the courtyard with the rest of the Outworlders. Sounds good, we can say, and hopefully he won't make his way back into the city. With that, we rescue Joshua, earning 500 experience. But this path requires either a speech skill of at least 80% or a doctor skill of 75%. Additionally, since we're here at the Servant Allocation Center, we can sell him some servants. You looking to buy any slaves? Servants, we can say? And he says, perhaps. Do you have some you wish to sell? And we can say, yes, I have a few here with me. Take a look and make me an offer. That tribal you have, he says, he smells strongly, but he looks healthy. I'll take him for $100. And here we can get to bartering. When we settle on a price, he says, excellent, here's your money. I'll have the tribal shipped off for medical tests and processing. Give me a moment to take care of the arrangements. A moment later, he says, very well, your servant has been relocated for medical testing and reconditioning. Curious, the servant seemed quite surprised by the whole affair. It took a few tranquilizer darts to smooth things over. I put everything the servant was carrying into the box in my office. Next, we can try to sell him Vic. And the guy says, even though he's old, he looks like a handyman, and he offers us $100. We can barter our way up, and once we agree on a price, he says, excellent, here's your money. And we get the same response. He had to be tranquilized and dragged away. But selling our companions would be a huge waste. Even if doing an evil playthrough, the money's just not worth it. So after talking with Barkus and freeing Joshua, we can explore the rest of the Servant Allocation Center. We see 3 cells here, each filled with a servant waiting to be given a job. They all have the same description: a strong man or a woman in working clothes. They keep their eyes firmly fixed to the ground. With Joshua free, we can head south back to the Vault City courtyard to check in with his wife. When we arrive at the tent, we see Joshua there. Joshua, says his wife, I'm so glad you're free. I was so worried. Thank you for rescuing my husband, she says. Please accept this as a reward. And we learn that his small family will be moving out soon. Probably a good idea. After all, this could always happen again. Our reward is 500 experience and $32. Or, if we chose to do this the evil way and have sex with his wife before agreeing to free him, she says, thanks for rescuing my husband. Please don't tell him what happened between us. And we don't get the reward money, and instead, we lose karma. On our way back up, we notice a new sign outside Cassidy's bar. Out of business, it says. Well, looks like the poor people of the courtyard will be out of booze for a while. Heading out of the Servant Allocation Center, we can explore the small shack just north of the amenities office. This is a guard shack, and the guards simply remind us that while using a guest pass, we have to be out of town after 6 p.m. Moving just northwest of here, we find the Corrections Center. Inside, we finally find Stark. What do you want, he says. Who are you, we can ask, and he says, I am Citizen Sergeant Stark, outsider. What do you want? What do you do here, we can ask? And he says, I run the Corrections Center. Keep the Outworlders in line. Make sure the servants behave. Organize patrols. Try and protect the city from raiders. Oh, we can say you're the one who busted up Cassidy's bar. And he says, maybe your friend Cassidy there didn't tell ya that he had illegal substances on the premises, and his license for alcohol distribution had expired. You forget to tell your friend here that, Cassidy? We can say, Cassidy says he was all paid up, and you raided his place anyway. And he says Cassidy was guilty of possession without a license. He doesn't like it, he can leave Vault City. That's simple. We can antagonize him, but that'll just lead to a fight, so instead, we'll ask him other questions. You mentioned that you organize patrols, we can say? And he says, yeah, we have a small group of patrols, can barely spare the men to protect Vault City, much less do all the reconnaissance that needs to be done. And here we can offer our services. I do a lot of traveling, we can say. Anything I can do to help? What do you mean, he asks. And we say, well, I could do some recon for you, if you're short-handed. And he says, no, you'd need a Pip-Boy to get the job done right, and I can't spare one right now. But we have one. I've already got a Pip-Boy, we can say. It's old and cranky, and seems to have wires and buttons yanked out everywhere, but it works. And he says, yeah? Has it got the Northern California world map installed? Yes, we can say. Well, at least from what I can see through the fog of war on the damn thing. Nothing like breaking the fourth wall. I got a job for you then, he says. I need someone to scout the terrain around Gecko, that ghoul encampment to the northeast. Hit the 8 sectors on the world map around the town, then report back. Why, we can ask. And he says if they keep poisoning our groundwater, we may be forced to take military action. Now, do you want the job or not? So that's why we found Puking Charlie. And that's how Vic's wife died. They both drank the well water which was irradiated. But irradiated by the people of Gecko? Sounds like we'll have to pay them a visit. Next, we can ask him about the raiders that are harassing Vault City. And he says, yeah, raiders, they've been hitting us pretty hard lately. And then he frowns. What do you want to know about them? And we can say, well, I'd like to try and find their base. Maybe stop the attacks if I can. And he says, what, you some kind of good Samaritan? I don't buy it. Look, we can say, I've seen enough of the world to know that helping out people seems to come back and help me in the end. And he says, oh yeah? Well, tackling this band of raiders may be more than you can handle. But I ain't gonna turn down any help at this point. You find their base, or even better, wipe them out, then go tell the first citizen. We can ask him if he has any idea where the raiders are striking from. And he says, I don't know. These raiders don't make much sense. If they are raiders, they've got heavy firepower, expensive firepower. They know military tactics. They stay in formation. They never cross their lines of fire, and they always stop short of breaking through our defenses. We can say they stop short of breaking through the defenses? And he says, yeah, I've seen them do it. The last attack, they disabled a laser turret on the western perimeter. They had a clear shot into the city. Then I saw one of their captains order them to fall back. It makes no sense. Any idea where they're coming from, we can ask? And he says, no, that's the most frustrating part. They keep retreating south. I can't spare any men to go and scout the area. I think the raiders have some sort of native guide that leads them through the southern canyons. What's the deal with the South anyway, we can ask? And he says, well, there's plenty of places to hide if you don't know where to look. The place is riddled with caves. Well, we can still offer to try and find them. And he says, go ahead and try. I'm betting the only way they'd let us find them is by giving us a map. So, we can help Vault City find and destroy the raiders that are harassing them. We won't tackle that now, because the story of this particular raider camp is woven into the story of another nearby settlement, and so we'll come and revisit Vault City's relationship with these raiders in an upcoming episode. But to continue, we can ask him about the vault, and he says the vault is right outside the door. Only citizens are allowed in there, though, so I don't want to catch you bothering the guards. We can ask him how to become a citizen, and he tells us what we already know. We need to pass the citizenship test or speak with First Citizen Lynette. But we also find an option here to do a little bit of lying. If we have the forged citizenship papers, we can say, but I am a citizen. And he says, is that so? I don't recognize you. And I know every citizen in Vault City. At this point, if we're wise, we can back away. But if not, we can say, here's my papers. I think you'll find everything is in order. And he says, well, if this isn't those papers that were stolen last month. Looks like I finally found the culprit. Come with me, outsider. If we resist, he and the guards turn hostile. Otherwise, we arrive outside the city gate. What a waste of time. But assuming we didn't get kicked out of town, we can explore the corrections center. We find vault suit wearing citizens imprisoned in each of these cells. Some of them grumble, I didn't do enough to get my citizenship revoked. Looks like it's all too easy to break the rules here in Vault City. Heading out of the corrections center, we see the big vault door and a hole leading into the mountainside. We can try to enter the vault, but the guards stop us. Yes, may I help you, they say. I'd like to enter the vault, we can say. I apologize, they respond, but only citizens may enter the vault. At this point, we can walk away, but if we have the forged citizenship papers, we can say that I am a citizen. But like with Stark, this does us no good. I'm sorry, the guards say, but I don't recognize you. I'm under orders to only let citizens I know into the vault. Perhaps First Citizen Lynette can help you. Good day. So we really got to go through First Citizen Lynette if we want to get inside this blasted vault. So, with this section explored, we now need to take the exit grid to the north to find the final section of Vault City and see if we can track down this First Citizen Lynette. We'll start by exploring this southern shack, but it's just a guard shack. So, heading out and moving to the large building to the right, we find another resident apartment complex filled with more snobby citizens, a few slaves, and a bunch of empty containers. Not worth our time. Heading out and moving to the shack directly north of the guard shack, we find another private home. This one is much larger, however. Must be the home of a more wealthy citizen. But with nothing interesting here, we can move on to the building far to the left. We see a sign outside the door, the Parlor Room. Heading inside, we find a bit of a restaurant and a host wearing a tux behind the counter. Yes, can I help you, he says. We can start by saying that we're looking for information. And he responds, then perhaps you should be at our information center instead of this establishment. It's located downtown. Now, move along. I have other customers. We can try to be a bit pushy. No, I think you'll tell me what I want to know first. And you'll leave that attitude out of your voice, too, if you know what's good for you. But the man is not intimidated. If you're not going to order a drink, perhaps you had best leave, sir. Well, I'll take a drink then, we can say. What have you got on tap? On tap? How quaint, he responds. We have mineral water, distilled water, and sparkling water. We also have several synthesized alcohols. Do you have any real drinks, we can ask? And he says, if you mean what passes for alcohol in the wastes, then no. We have never felt the need to poison our systems with those bacterial-ridden mixtures. The bar in the courtyard, however, might be less discriminating. We can ask him what kind of synthesized drinks he has, and he says, we have synthetic derivatives H and T, and we recently brewed an extremely powerful mixture, Alcohol Z, which has a rich pseudo-microbrewery flavor. Each is modestly priced at $20 a glass. If we bite the bullet and say, sure, $20, not too bad, I'll take an Alcohol Z. The screen goes black, we drink it, and he says, would you care for anything else? So this item is not added to our inventory. We can only drink it here on the spot. We can do this as many times as we want, but at $20 a pop, it gets expensive really fast. Though, if you do it 100 times, which I did, and I counted each one, and it took a really long time, and it cost $2,000. But if we do it 100 times, after the 100th glass, he says, are you okay, sir? Drinking all of that Alcohol Z looks like it has had some sort of effect on you. Are you sure you want more? And we can say, no, I feel great. I'm just going to pop out of dialogue for a second and check my max hit points. Subtle. Interplay subtle. And when we do, we discover that we have a brand new perk. Alcohol raised hit points number 2. Your hit points have been enhanced by little more than repeated use of the auto dock. What? This description must be wrong. But we only get this perk if we have a high luck skill. After drinking 100 bottles of Alcohol Z, we gain a permanent +2 bonus to our maximum HP if we have 9 luck. That gives us Alcohol Raised Hit Points perk 1. But if we have 10 luck, we gain +4 HP and the Alcohol Raised Hit Points number 2. If, however, we have poor luck, we lose 4 HP with only 1 luck, getting the Alcohol Lowered Hit Points number 2, and -2 HP with only 2 luck, giving us the Alcohol Lowered Hit Points perk number 1. Having luck in any range between those numbers, and we don't get any perk. The Parlor Room has a few private dining halls and a bathroom. The final room has a bookshelf, and inside we get a copy of a first aid book. Then, exploring a desk in this room, we find a 10mm pistol, a stim pack, and $175. And that's it for all of these buildings. We find one building left. It is the large, completely unique-looking building at the top of the map with a sign outside that says Central Council. Heading inside, we find quite a few rooms. Turning right and opening the first door to the right, we find a woman who doesn't have much to say. She just wants to see our day pass and then asks us to leave her alone. Heading out and turning right again, we find a few guards at the end of this hallway, guarding the room to the right. Inside, we find First Citizen Lynette.
You're wearing a vault suit. I never imagined I would meet an inhabitant of another vault. This Vault 13, where is it located?
Now there's a conversation pitfall here to lure in players who haven't been paying attention to the story. We can say, isn't this the vault my ancestor originally came from?
Quite impossible. In the century we have lived outside the vault, no one has ever chosen to leave. Although there were 2 citizens exiled from our city long ago, as punishment for their crimes.
You are the ones who kicked out the Vault Dweller. I've come for what's rightfully mine.
You barge into my chambers and then have the audacity to make demands of me? Lynette, first citizen of Vault City?
Hold on a second.
Leave. You are no longer welcome in this city.
If we say I'm not leaving until I get some answers, she calls for the guards and attacks. So instead of confusing Vault 13 with Vault City here, we can say, I don't know where Vault 13 is. I came from a village in the west.
Village? But you are wearing a vault suit. What is this village you speak of? Speak plainly. My patience is wearing thin.
She clearly thinks we murdered someone for this vault suit, but we can say, no, you misunderstand me. The Vault Dweller was the founder of my village. This is his jumpsuit.
Oh, now I understand. But what proof do you have that your ancestor was from a vault?
Now, when navigating a conversation with Lynette here, many of the dialogue trees have pitfalls that all end the same way, the way we just experienced. She gets angry, she orders us to leave, and we either fight the guards or we get kicked out of Vault City. So from here on out, we'll navigate the conversation the only way we can to get anything out of Lynette. Here, for example, if we mention anything that sounds magical or tribal, or if we exhibit a bad temper, she gets angry. The only way to proceed is to say, well, for evidence, I have this vault jumpsuit and this canteen. They belonged to my ancestor.
Very well, let me see. These are authentic. Unbelievable. You are a survivor from another vault. Welcome to our city. You must have suffered much in the outside world.
I need to find the vault my people came from.
Perhaps some mention of your vault is in our computer archives.
Well, can we check?
We could check the vault computers. They would probably have the information you seek, but only citizens are allowed to access the archives.
Is there any way I can become a citizen?
You may speak with Proconsul Gregory. He has authority to administer the citizenship test. He can be found in the meeting room down the corridor.
I'll go speak to the proconsul then.
Or there is another way to become a citizen.
Another way? What is it?
Rather than taking the test, you could prove your commitment to the vaults in a more substantial way. As an outsider, you are in a unique position to resolve a difficult situation for us.
I don't know. Isn't the citizenship test standard procedure?
I am giving you an opportunity few outsiders ever receive. You may take the test if you wish, but resolving this situation for us may prove more rewarding. Do you understand me?
All right then, what kind of situation?
There's a town, if you could call it that, to the northeast of our city. It is filled with creatures that are polluting the groundwater with dangerous radiation.
How are they poisoning the groundwater?
Those things are operating a damaged atomic power plant. You see, they are immune to radiation. They don't care that they are slowly killing us with their poisons.
I'll take care of the problem. I'll be back when the situation is resolved. After accepting the quest, we can go back to her to ask her a few more questions.
Yes? What is it?
I had some questions I wanted to ask you.
For a non-citizen, you certainly demand a great deal of my time.
Do you have a GEC?
I am sorry, but we used ours to start Vault City. I do not believe there were any spares, but you could check the acquisitions office. It is located by the entrance to our vault.
This is Vault City? Why don't you live in the vault?
No, we do not live in the vault. They were a temporary measure to protect a chosen few from the war and aid them in the subsequent construction of a new world.
How did you know when to leave the vault? I heard the vaults were isolated from the outside world.
What you heard was incorrect. Our archives are quite clear. Our vault received the all-clear signal 2 years after being sealed.
The all-clear signal? From where?
Why, from surface monitors, I suppose. I am certain there were sensors monitoring the environment. How else would the Overseer have known when it was safe to leave?
Do these monitors still exist? Can I see them?
Quite likely they were disassembled and used as upgrades for other systems.
But the Overseer was the one who gave the order to leave the vault?
Yes. At least that's what I remember from the archives. However, I'm certain many citizens were responsible for monitoring the surface sensors.
Why is it that you condone slavery?
Why do we condone slavery? The system has been in place for many years, and it works quite well. Both parties benefit from the institution.
I'm sure your slaves would disagree.
They are not slaves, they are our servants. We have given them homes, food, clothing, and a purpose. We have given them a life.
Sure. Why be free when they can be laboring for you?
I believe it is time you left. I suggest you make your stay in Vault City a short one.
But before I go, I had some more questions.
Do you have any conception of how busy I am? I run this city and have precious little time to waste with you.
And with that, she locks down. She refuses to talk with us anymore. We've pushed the slavery issue a bit too far. Wow, quite an intimidating figure, this First Citizen Lynette. So she's not going to let us in the vault unless we stop the radiation coming from the town of Gecko. Ah, great, one more thing to add to our list. But before we go, we can explore this place. Maybe taking the citizenship test is the easy way. There's a room to the northeast, but there's nothing in the bookshelves. Inspecting the room to the west of this, we find a grim-looking bureaucrat with a narrow face and thick eyebrows. This is Proconsul Gregory. I'm sorry, can I help you, he says. Who are you, we can ask. I am Proconsul Gregory. Is this the office you were looking for, or... And we can ask him what he does here. I am the assistant to the first citizen, he says. I schedule her appointments, administer the citizenship test to potential applicants, and update all the lists on the Vault City server. No small task, I assure you. What can you tell me about Gecko? Gecko, he says. It's a filthy shantytown to the north, inhabited by those creatures, those ghouls. They're responsible for poisoning our groundwater, you know. It's an obvious act of terrorism against Vault City. We can ask, how exactly are they poisoning the water? And he says their shantytown is built around the remains of an old atomic power plant, a plant they somehow started up again and that is now leaking radiation. Those creatures need to be driven out and that plant shut down. So the creatures are ghouls. But are they all feral ghouls, or can we communicate with them? When we ask about the citizenship test, he says, yes, I am responsible for administering the citizenship test to anyone who wishes to become a citizen of Vault City. What's the benefits of being a citizen? And he says, benefits? Why, look around you. Vault City is the safest, richest city in all of the wastes. Citizens receive free medical treatment, food and water is plentiful, and there's no crime or disease to speak of. What is this test exactly, we can ask? And he says it is a comprehensive exam divided into several parts: advanced mathematics, spatial relations, deductive reasoning, language comprehension. Oh, and there's also a thorough physical examination. Now we recall from talking with Skeeve that the test is just an excuse to forbid outsiders from becoming citizens of Vault City. So that makes this an inordinately difficult test. But if we're up for it, we can say, sounds difficult. I'd like to take the test if I can. And he says, you wish to take the test? Excellent, excellent. Nothing pleases me more than testing potential applicants. But I must warn you, the test is several hours long. Do you wish to take it now? Sure, we can say. Very well, he says. Here are forms 5028, 6112, and the Pip-Boy answer console. Please be sure to fill in each circle completely. Now, if you would take a seat over there. All right, we say. And a moment later, he says, time's up. Let's see your form. We say, wait, just a minute more. Oh, forget it here. And he says, no, that's wrong. Oh, that's not right either. A divide by zero error here. Needed to carry the two. Oh my, your vocabulary is sadly lacking as well, I see. So, we can say? And he says, well, I regret to inform you that I cannot grant your citizenship at this time. Frankly, you don't seem to have the intelligence necessary to grasp higher mathematics. Maybe some other time then, we can say. But the test is rigged from the start. The only way to pass this test is if we have luck, intelligence, and perception of at least 9. If, however unlikely it may be, we do happen to have 9 in all 3 of those attributes, this conversation goes a little differently. When he tells us about the test, our intelligence gives us an option to say, "You aren't testing the subject's visual acuity or logic skills? Well, perhaps you would consider revising this test in the future. After I take it." He then gives us the test, but we finish it quickly. And he says, "Finished already? Are you certain you don't want to double-check your answers?" And we can say, "Already did. Here." "Well, let's take a look," he says. "First, let's see if..." "Oh, very good. I see you got that one. How about..." "Why, yes, you carried the 2. Very clever, very clever. But why did you..." "Oh, you applied the derivative to number 5. Brilliant!" "Of course it was brilliant," we can say. And he says, "Why, you've passed. Congratulations." "Great, so I'm a citizen," we can say. And he says, "Well, we still have to perform the physical examination. Fortunately, I have all of the equipment right here. You might want to take off your boots." And after a thorough physical, he says, "Your blood pressure looks good. No communicable diseases that I can find. Congratulations, citizen. Welcome to Vault City." "Thanks," we can say. "It's good to be here." If after becoming a citizen, we head back to Lynette, she still tries to get us to take care of the gecko situation. We don't lose the quest by becoming a citizen, but when we tell her that we are a citizen, she says,
Oh, that's right. The proconsul mentioned we had gained a new citizen. Welcome, citizen. As for the archives, yes, they are located inside our vault. Peruse them at your leisure.
"All smiles now, eh?" But supposing we don't have high enough stats to pass the citizenship test, our only option is to complete this gecko quest first. But before that, we can finish exploring this place. In the next room to the west, we find a servant diligently working. The room next to this is empty, but in the final room, we find Senior Counselor McClure. "And you are?" he asks. Being polite to this guy so that we can continue to work with him, we give him our name, and he asks what he can do for us. We can say, "I'm looking for a Garden of Eden creation kit." "A gek," he says? "As I understand it, we only had one. I read that it lasted a long time, but it broke down a number of years before I was even born. We were supposed to have 2. Supposed to, we can say? But apparently, he continues, the old government messed up the shipments, and we received a shipment that was meant to go to a vault number 13, I think it was. They probably received our other gek. Wait a minute, so Vault 13 did have a gek? But what was in the shipment that was meant for Vault 13, we can ask? And he says, water chips. 100 or so. I don't know why they sent so many. We've never needed to replace ours. We've had the same water chip since the day our people lived underground in the vault. Oh, this is just rubbing salt into the wound of the very first vault dweller. If only this one clerical mistake had not happened, the entire events of Fallout 1 would have never occurred. I suppose it's good this did happen, because that way he destroyed the master. So, yay clerical errors, I guess. We can then say, well, what happened to the gek that broke down? It was disassembled, he says, and its parts were used for other applications. We can ask him what he knows about First Citizen Lynette, and he says, she is the leader of the people. The citizens of Vault City look to her for guidance, but the citizens, through the council, still have final say on matters. In these trying times, she is a pillar of our society. What do you mean by trying times, we can say? And he says things have been tough these last 2 years. The NCR has been getting more aggressive in their attempts to get Vault City to join the Republic. They tell us that if we were to join, they would be able to defend us from the raider attacks on our city. As of late, these raider attacks have become more brutal. On top of all of this, we have ghouls and gecko contaminating our groundwater. He then gives us directions for gecko, but advises us to bring some anti-radiation chems. If they are contaminating our water, he says, it's likely their town itself is irradiated. He describes gecko as being a forsaken place, a shanty town built around the remains of an old atomic power plant. We've finished talking with everyone in Vault City for now, but that's not the full story to Vault City. Vault City is one of the places in Fallout 2 that we'll come back to on numerous occasions. Many of the quests in other places like Gecko and New Reno will send us back here to Vault City. And after completing those quests, we'll unlock new conversations and new events here in Vault City. So Vault City is sure to be a common sight in episodes to come. But with that, for now, we fully explore Vault City. And we got our answer. Vault City does not have a gek, but Vault 13 did. Now we just have to find the location of this fabled Vault 13, and it looks like one of the computers inside the Vault of Vault City may have what we're looking for. But unless we passed the citizenship test, we've got to deal with the situation at Gecko first before they'll let us in. And so we'll pick up right here where we leave off in my next episode. I publish many videos each and every week here on my channel, so if you don't want to miss it, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have and you still feel like you're missing out on notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I have a shirt shop with completely unique designs that you can't find anywhere else. My designs come on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes and in a wide array of colors. They come on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, stickers, mugs, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.